Okay, it is JetPlays back for what will be my 6th season of Let's Play Dwarf Fortress. What you see before you is an earlier attempt to draw a map for a season I did not start because unfortunately version 4.4 or 4.5 came out pretty much exactly at that time and I wanted it, but Dwarf Hack and all that stuff just wasn't available yet. Now it is, so now I'm going to start. But before I can start recording, I need an intro sequence and I need an outro sequence. And before I have those, which generally involve the map, I have to draw the map. And before I can draw the map, which will take ages, by the way, I have to have picked a map. Now, the following clips include 6 maps that I kind of like for one reason or another, and I would like you guys to help me pick one. First up is Annuroth, the Wondrous domain, which isn't all that wondrous really because it lacks for very many volcanoes and has very few deserts, so for me personally, it's not that interesting. What is interesting, however, is the sociography, I suppose you could say. We have about, 200,000 goblins between the Monster of Plans and the Seduction of Chanting, and 6,000 elves in what is called the Wood of Poets there in the east. There are no human civilizations left standing, though, and the Greatest Lava has about 20 whole dwarves in it. So that would make for a challenging environment at the very least. Number 2 is Opuitua, the Eternal Expanse, which is probably my favorite overall continent, especially with that hook in the east. It has a lot of interesting volcanoes on the mainland, and lots of deserts, including a good aligned one in the east. What it doesn't have, though, are any dwarves. There are no dwarven civilizations left standing. But as you can see in the south, it does have about 30,000 elves in what's called the Twigs of Balance. In the northeast, the meandering realm has 30,000 humans, and in the west, 30,000 goblins live in the Unbridled Rock Nightmares, which is a very interesting name for an empire. Number 3 is Orubitua, the Everlasting Expanses. This one, if you can't tell, looks a little bit like a rhino, which I think is interesting. Now, it has a lot of volcanoes in the far east, and on top of that, a cold evil desert and an evil glacier, which look interesting to me. Now, as you can see, in the east, there are lots of dwarves, and they live in 2 empires called the Copper of Paint and another called the Orange. Elves live in what are called the Fang of Gorges and the Basin of Danger, and the goblins live in what is called the Cradle Dead. Now, unfortunately, all the humans have lost all of their civilizations, so I don't know where they are. Number 4 is Thur Zahl, the Universe of Fallen Stars, with a very large set of mountain ranges in the west and a good aligned lagoon in the far east. Other than that, there's some evil mountains and a few notable deserts. Now, 300,000 goblins have essentially taken over this entire world, and they live in the Phantasm of Thur, the Terrible Hate, and the Jackal of Chasms. In the center, the Laconic Confederacies have about 30,000 humans, but the Cudgel Amusing have only about 20 dwarves left, and for the elves, in the Euphoria of Harmonizing, only about 20 left alive too. So these guys would struggle. Okay, number 5, Ulryst, the Wilderness of Wind, probably my favorite name, but least favorite map since it's a rectangle. But you will see points of interest, the big river system, an evil desert, and an evil glacier with a volcano. Now, as far as empires, the civilization of Beaks is the humans along that river with about 3,000. There are 4,000 dwarves in the Scaly Lash and 6,000 elves in the Son of Scales. But between the Afflicted Disloyalty and the Seduction of Lands, there are 120,000 goblins to deal with. So that makes it kind of interesting, but we still have everybody kicking around. Finally, number 6, Xestsumon, the Enchanted Plains, with a large inland sea, a good aligned desert, evil and good mountains, and a lot of volcanism in the north there. It has the Furnaces of Amazing and the Tools of Tunneling, housing about 22,000 dwarves, 6,000 elves in what is called the Aged Taker Cactus, and 22,000 goblins between the Slim Flies and the Dread of Ranch, and 1 whole goblin living in the Dungeon of Arches. Finally, the Colony of Pillars and Confederation of Leopards, have about 22,000 humans. by the way, this is the first time I've ever recorded narration outside of gameplay. It was way more orchestrated, and you should have heard some of the friggin' bloopers I threw away, because it's a lot harder than I thought.